Hello everybody, welcome to Flight Past, and welcome back to Waterloo. This is the story of the 100 days, the 100-day campaign. We're talking about Napoleon, and we're talking about him coming back from exile from Elba and coming back to France. And we are in the Huey, and we'll just take off here. And I've started this stream on the south of France. Lovely blue sky, and we got live weather, and we'll just get up these trees, and this is the French Riviera, and this is the peninsula by the Golfe of Juan. And in the last episode, you left us traveling from Elba to the south of France, and we're going to follow Napoleon's route. It's called the Route Napoleon, and we'll talk about some of the history whilst we do that. Just bend around here. I can see Noondu there. If you want to fly along with us, we're on the we're on the European server. And we left last time. Let me just get this map up. We were talking about we were around about the February time in 1815. Napoleon has just seized his opportunity to leave Elba. Sir Neil Campbell, his I suppose his jailer, his British jailer, has gone off to the mainland of Italy, and Napoleon has seized this opportunity to sail from Elba and try to evade the Royal Navy blockade and return to France. So it's February 1815. Napoleon he's decided he's tired of his life on Elba. He's 300 days it's been on this island, and he's been receiving reports of discontent in France, and he has not been able to see his wife or his son. He's been the Bourbon government has reneged on its deal for his pension, and we also left the Duke of Wellington had been removed from Paris by the Viscount Castlereagh, who's the British Prime Minister. He feels that the presence of Wellington in Paris is a little bit too inflammatory, so he sends him off to the Congress of Vienna, and very quickly the Congress of Vienna has decided to revert to petty squabblings, I suppose. They're trying to divide up the map of France. And the news of this dissent among the Allies in Vienna reaches Napoleon's ears. So, if you're new to this channel, this is what we do. We use Flight Simulator to have a look at the terrain and have a look at history through the eyes from the air, see if we can learn anything and get an idea of distance. And what happens is we're going to follow Napoleon's route. We've crossed the sea. We're here now in the Golfe Juan. This is where Napoleon lands, in this bay, and we'll follow his route using the Huey up the mountains and over into the Rhone Valley, and we'll discuss why he takes this route and all this sort of stuff. There was rumours as well that Napoleon was feeling that his exile to Elba would be short-lived. There was rumours that there was discussions about moving him further afield, possibly to the Azores or St. Helena. Napoleon was therefore eager to take advantage of the situation that presents it to him. And because fundamentally Napoleon had not really accepted defeat. He was 45 years old. He was still full of energy, in which he'd shown in just the works he tried to carry out on Elba. He still had his boldness. He had this phenomenal drive. The sort of drive that drove him from being a mere lieutenant of the artillery all the way to being the Emperor of France. On the 26th of February, Napoleon has set out from Elba, from the port of Ferrero, and on the ship it's called the Inconstant. He takes with him 1,100 companions. 650 of them are from the Old Guard, and 108 are from the Polish lancers. And he has a small flotilla of ships that accompany him. Many are no bigger than a fishing boat, but they manage to evade the navies of Britain and France and sail north, and they land near a place called Frejus. Let me see if we can find that actual place without crashing. Which is just along the coast here. He decides that he's left with no choice. he's left with no choice but to take the gamble and return to France. He's heard of this discontented elements from his army, his officers, and his veterans, and he wants to align with them and pose himself again back as the champion of the revolution. He's accompanied on his journey, by the way, by the generals Bertrand, Drouet, and Quimbron. He lands here, and he attempts to seize Antibes, which is just ahead of us on the nose. But that attempt to capture this fort at Antibes fails, but he decides to bypass that, and in the evening he basically gets control or goes through Caen. So he's believed to, whether it's true or not, but he's believed to be carried onto the beach at Golfe Juan with his men holding a plank above their heads as an improvised jetty, so he doesn't get his feet wet. And so by the afternoon of the 1st of March, 1815, he has disembarked all his men, his grenadiers, 2 cannon and a squadron of Polish lancers. And so he begins his journey to Paris. And I thought there was a famous, I suppose it's like a poem, and it says, what news, this is of the time, this is what was written in, I believe in Paris, and it was kind of a humorous sort of take on stuff, but it was basically, what news, ma foi, the tiger has broken out of his den. The monster was 3 days at sea. The wretch has landed at Fréjus. The brigand has arrived at Antibes. The invader has reached Grenoble. The general has entered Lyons. Napoleon slept last night at Fontainebleau, and the emperor proceeds to the Tuileries today, and his imperial majesty will address his loyal subjects tomorrow. And this is from a Paris broadsheet published in April 1815, and it's entitled and it was published by someone anonymous. So this was the sort of the mood of what was happening at the time. And so we've talked about the tiger has broken out of his den. We've had the monster was 3 days at sea, and so now we have the wretch has landed at Fréjus, and then the brigand has arrived at Antibes. I think Fréjus is down here somewhere, so I think he arrives in this area, basically trying to gather support. And what he actually does, which is interesting, is he doesn't use the Rhone Valley. He doesn't go along the coast to Marseille. He experienced anger from Royalists in the area on the way down, and so what he wanted to do was avoid that area. So he decides to take a more difficult route and go across the Alps and to the area of France called the Dauphine. He wanted to get to the Dauphine. He was confident that his in that area there was opposition to the repressive nature of the Restoration government. And he knew as well that he had a lot of support in the peasantry, the farmers, the lower classes. They saw him as the sort of reincarnation of the revolution and a protector of their rights. At this time, he still had a tremendous charisma about him, and he could make concessions or promise concessions to the crowd, saying that, get me to Paris and I will cure your grievances. So let's start the route then. This he comes over, tries to take Antibes. It doesn't work. He then comes into Cannes here, famous for his film festival, and then we're going to then fly the route up into the mountains and try and find the route that he took at the time. Of course, this is March time. It's not particularly the weather's not particularly pleasant. It's probably has snow on the mountains. So we'll start the route here. I'm just going to get a glass of water. We'll pause, and I'll be back in a second. If you're watching on YouTube, back in the next part, and we'll follow the route from this point here.